Well, thank you all very much. Isn't it wonderful to be here this morning in what now is the second sit-down restaurant in Ward 7? I want to thank Barbara Lang, who is a good friend, somebody who I've really enjoyed working with over all these years, somebody who has done an absolutely phenomenal job in leading the Chamber of Commerce in the District of Columbia to great heights. One need only look at where the Chamber was when she took over and see it today and know that she has had a phenomenal presence, a phenomenal vision, and a phenomenal level of energy in order to bring the Chamber forward. So how about a big hand for Barbara Lang? You know, there are so many people here today. There were some people who I was going to single out, and I probably better not do that because I can see what's going to happen. There are some people who will be left out. But I really am excited about the people, you know, behind me, because in this city, you better have somebody watching your back. Again, I am delighted to be here today. This has been a very spirited, campaign. I'm a native Washingtonian. I'm a product of the public schools of the District of Columbia, a graduate of George Washington University, have worked my entire life in the District of Columbia, and frankly was very proud to be able to represent this ward, Ward 7, on the Council of the District of Columbia for 2 years. So it gets no better, frankly, than being able to serve your city. And I'm excited at the prospect of being able to serve my city in yet another role beginning on January 2nd, 2011. Now, we're here today to talk about two issues that concern us all: jobs and economic development in the District of Columbia. Wherever I go in the city, these are the issues on people's minds. They ask, what can we do now to create good jobs with benefits for the unemployed and underemployed across the district? They want to know what we can do now to help our small businesses, which are truly the lifeblood of our local economy, but certainly have not seen the support they need from the mayor's office. They want to know what we can do now to position the district to be a competitor in the emerging markets of the future, and how we can build the workforce we need in order to compete. And they want to know what the next mayor of the District of Columbia can do to accomplish these things, since the current mayor has fallen short. We've all seen the statistics. There are too many people in this city wondering where their next paycheck is going to come from. This year, the citywide jobless numbers have hit a record high. In Ward 7, right here in Ward 7, unemployment is at 19%, and in Ward 8, it is between 30 and 40%, an unconscionably high number. This issue of unemployment concerns all the people of the District of Columbia because it's an issue that affects all the people of this great city. We all have a stake in this. High unemployment in the city affects our overall tax base, our health care, and our social services costs. Idle hands affect our public safety and drive incarceration and detention costs. Unemployment increases health risks, including obesity and addiction, and strains our fragile safety nets. The more people that are out of work, the tougher it becomes for our small business owners to be able to stay in business. I think we all know, ladies and gentlemen, that this is a ticking time bomb. Unfortunately, for the last 3.5 years, the Fenty administration has had no economic development strategy for the creation of sustainable jobs and economic growth in our city. For the last 3.5 years, the current administration has virtually ignored unemployment, doing little, if anything, to deal with this growing crisis, focusing more on creating jobs for the mayor's friends and allies than on growing numbers of district residents trying to make ends meet. Well, my friends, I think it's time that the District of Columbia has a mayor who is focused on creating jobs for all the people of the District of Columbia and not just friends and cronies. As mayor, I will make it one of my top priorities to develop a real strategy for creating jobs in every part of the District of Columbia. And this priority will be a focus of my attention from the very earliest days of my administration. Now is the time for the District of Columbia to better connect its residents to jobs, accelerate business growth, and create a model for 21st century sustainable urban economic development. These are not new issues to me. I've spent my entire life trying to help create opportunities for the people of this great city. As a lifelong advocate for people with disabilities, people who are homeless, and at-risk young people, I've fought to improve conditions and expand opportunities for those who have been economically marginalized and disenfranchised in this city. As a member of the D.C. Council, I've fought for workforce development initiatives, formulated policies to help our small businesses, promoted smart growth, and supported neighborhood revitalization benefits. Now it's time to take that advocacy and that experience to the mayor's office. My plan to create jobs and economic development in the district is dynamic and far-reaching. It is based on 8 core principles. Let me lay them out to you this morning and share with you some of the approaches that we will use to achieve them. First, we need a long-term coordinated economic development strategy, not just a patchwork of unconnected economic development initiatives and projects. The district is poised to grow by thousands of residents in the coming years, and we need a plan for this growth smartly. We need specific economic goals reflecting where we want to be in 10, 20, and 30 years. We then need to craft a bold strategic plan outlining how we get there and then follow that plan. The current administration, as we know, has not done that. Indeed, many of the initiatives of the past few years began under the previous mayor, Anthony Williams, or were pushed by individual members of the council, and that should be applauded. But that's not enough. If we don't have a long-term strategy that projects where we want our city to be in 20 or 30 years, then we'll always be making it up as we go along. That's why one of the first things I'm going to do as mayor-elect, even before I'm sworn in, is to appoint a D.C. Economic Development Task Force and convene a citywide summit on jobs. We'll bring together business owners, organized labor, government officials, D.C. job training providers, the higher education community, and other key stakeholders. We'll task them with identifying strategic opportunities and targets for growing our economy and creating jobs, and creating an action plan on how to deliver on those jobs. And we'll charge the task force with submitting its findings within the first 100 days of my administration. Next, and of great importance, we will significantly shape the office and reshape the office of the Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development. Right now, the office is mostly focused on requests for proposals and big development projects, with little or no attention given to business development and job creation. We're going to change that, ladies and gentlemen. First, we'll create 2 positions under the Deputy Mayor, a Director of Business Development and a Director of Real Estate Development. This will ensure that we're equally focused on helping businesses succeed and attracting new businesses as we are focused on big development projects in the District of Columbia. I'll also charge the Deputy Mayor with preparing a 5-year economic development strategic plan, using the recommendations of the task force to serve as a blueprint for all economic development initiatives, and then to provide us with yearly progress reports. As part of this process, we'll create an East of the River planning group that will focus on economic development opportunities right here in Ward 7 and next door in Ward 8. I'll require the Deputy Mayor to formally review all development projects that have been awarded in the city. And we'll have a very simple rule for all developers. If the city committed public funds to your project and we find you haven't made progress towards starting construction, you lose the funding and we'll redirect the money to other projects that are ready to move forward. And we'll make all that information available on the district government's website. That's the kind of accountability here and other places you can expect from a Gray administration. Our second core principle is making sure that we have workforce development initiatives that provide jobs to residents of the District of Columbia. If we're ever going to compete in the economy of the future, we need a workforce that's equipped to do so, don't we? Yes, sir. We can only get this done by bringing together the district government and our academic, labor, and business communities to make sure that we're identifying opportunities and focusing our job training programs on the right areas in this city. Unfortunately, for too long, the city has had a haphazard approach to job training and readiness, with existing programs having little or no accountability for the preparation and connection of residents to the workforce. When I'm mayor, that will change. That's right. I've already discussed some of the ways we can build a more prepared workforce when I unveiled my education plan just a few weeks ago. Education is clearly the key to long-term job creation. That's why I've outlined a birth through 24 approach to education that includes reintroducing vocational, career, and technical education, and also, frankly, investing in our University of the District of Columbia, which is our state university. And also investing in our new community college, which will celebrate its first anniversary on August 26, 2010. But beyond education, there are some other immediate steps we can take. For example, when I'm mayor, we'll implement a very simple concept. Companies that get district contracts must hire district residents to do the work. It's not just the right thing to do. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the law of the District of Columbia. The district's first source law says that if you get a city contract, you're required to make sure that DC residents make up at least 51% of your workforce of the project, and we are going to enforce that law. All right. Unfortunately, this program has been mismanaged, abused, and often ignored. According to a recent DC auditor's report, the current administration has failed to implement and enforce the first source law, costing district residents hundreds of jobs and more than $14 million in lost job revenue. We're going to fix that. On my first day in office, I will sign an executive order that directs the deputy mayor to oversee first source compliance so that district residents don't lose any more job opportunities as a result of mismanagement of this program. Next, we'll reinvigorate the Workforce Development Council, the Workforce Investment Council, that will engage in development of jobs in the District of Columbia. And I looked at Barbara because she was the chair at one point of that, and we worked on a strategy and never saw it go anywhere, did we? That's right. We know the WIC is a vital, federally mandated body that oversees each of the district's workforce development funding, all of its funding. Unfortunately, WIC is not meeting the mandate to provide robust and stringent oversight of local job training programs, and our plan fixes that. We also will demand accountability from the district's job training providers. We'll do that by requiring a competitive selection process for job training providers, and we'll require performance-based contracts for each of them so that they are accountable for measurable results and outcomes. We'll expand the role of the community college in workforce development. We can do that in a number of ways, such as creating a business and entrepreneurship center at both the community college and the University of the District of Columbia. This center, modeled after the community college system in California, will bring entrepreneurial training and education to business owners and future entrepreneurs through courses, certificates, degrees, and curricula across a panoply of disciplines in the city. In addition, we'll establish the community college as a workforce intermediary, linking job seekers and community-based organizations that recruit and train candidates with employers who are looking to hire people. And as mayor, I'll also make sure that we responsibly design and manage the Summer Youth Employment Program. Every summer, the news media is filled with stories about the gross mismanagement of Mayor Finty's Summer Youth Employment Program. Mismanagement that results in poor outcomes and uneven experiences for the youth it supposedly serves. Not to mention, of course, the wasting of taxpayers' dollars in this city. And after a summer filled with stories about young people being misplaced and not placed at all, we found out just this week that the mayor went $7 million over the budget for the program this year once again. And it would have been $11 million if the council hadn't acted yesterday. And as he came up with a last-minute request to extend the program by a week, the council learned that he was trying to fill that shortfall by taking money from other programs designed to help needy Washingtonians. Frankly, I don't think anybody would ever believe, anybody would ever agree that we ought to pit our young people, our kids, against homeless families in the District of Columbia. That is an absolutely unconscionable thing to do. And so, Mr. Mayor, it was your mismanagement that prevented the program from being extended for these kids. Your attempts to play politics and pitting one group against another ended up hurting the very kids that this program was designed to help in the first place. Right. When I'm mayor, we'll put an end to this mismanagement. We'll make sure that our young people are placed in effective internships at quality host sites. No longer will the emphasis be on just quantity. We will place an equal emphasis on quality, and we'll require our young people to interview for these positions. After all, this is not a handout, it's an opportunity, and we want our young people to learn the skills they need to find the job and be able to be successful in this economy. That they will be expected to come every day. That they will be expected to come on time. They will be expected to get along with other people. And that they will be expected to do productive things that will train them for adulthood in the District of Columbia as they take control of the District of Columbia. Our third core principle is regaining the district's competitive position in the region and creating a business-friendly environment. The district, with all of our resources and advantages, is losing far too many businesses to our suburban and regional neighbors, like the recent decision by Northrop Grumman to relocate to Virginia instead of to our great city. Making matters worse is a climate for small business that is inadequate at best and, frankly, oftentimes hostile. In a recently published Small Business Survival Index, the District of Columbia was ranked last, 51 out of 51. My friends, there is absolutely no acceptable excuse for that. As mayor, one of the first things I'll do is convene various industry advisory councils, each focused on a specific core industry, to develop a recommendation on how we can improve the business climate for each one. I'll put these councils into place during the transition, and when they will so that they will have 6 months to develop detailed and actionable plans that will be implemented right after they are completed. Further, we'll establish a business one-stop within the Department of Consumer and Regulatory Affairs that is also available online to help new and existing businesses get information on how to start and grow a business, including a step-by-step list of permits, licenses, inspections, and funding sources that, frankly, somebody can figure out how it works. We'll also create the position of Small Business Expediter to help small businesses with licensing, permits, and certificates of occupancy. And we'll do something about the rising health care costs that severely impact our small businesses. The recently passed federal health care reform, spearheaded by President Obama, requires by the year 2014 the creation of small business health options programs. The program creates purchasing pools where together small businesses can purchase health insurance, often at a fraction of the cost if they were to acquire insurance on their own. The health care reform bill requires that these exchanges be created by 2014, but we're not going to wait until that long. As mayor, I will work to create robust small business health care exchanges for district businesses, not in 2014, but immediately after I'm elected mayor of the District of Columbia. We also need to recognize that we cannot be economically competitive if only 33% of our workforce lives in the district. In order to increase job productivity, grow our revenue base, and promote sustainable development, we've got to do more to create workforce housing opportunities. Our plan includes policies that will increase the supply of affordable workforce housing as well as mixed-income housing here in the District of Columbia. Our fourth principle is making sure that we have transportation and related infrastructure that work for residents and for visitors to the city. Economic development will not get anywhere without the right transportation and the right infrastructure strategy. Transportation is more than connecting points on a map. It is about creating attractive places where our visitors and our residents can work, shop, and be entertained. Carefully designed pedestrian-scale streets and places are integral to the high quality of life all district residents deserve. As mayor, I'll bring together the relevant department heads to assess the transportation infrastructure in areas of high unemployment especially, as well as underemployment. And we'll task them with providing specific recommendations on how best to transport residents in these neighborhoods to places of employment. We'll also assess how well the transportation system is serving the needs of district visitors. Working with the hospitality and tourism industries, we'll conduct a top-to-bottom review of what's working and what's not working. Programs like the Circulator have been a success for many industries in this city and deserve our continued support. We'll develop a comprehensive and thoughtful plan to finally create a streetcar network in the District of Columbia. This program will not only help transport our citizens and visitors, but will promote economic development and will base our plan on realistic funding sources and include private sector participation. Much has been done in Portland, Oregon, where I've been twice to see the streetcar system operate there and seen the economic development that has occurred. And we'll provide incentives for the use of electric vehicles, including possible tax credits. We'll also look at best practices to place and pay charging stations for these vehicles. Fifth, our fifth core principle, we must view the federal government as a core industry in the city. The district government needs to do a much better job of recognizing the unique role that the federal government plays in the city's economy and do far more to cultivate and benefit from that relationship. Unfortunately, this reality has been lost on the Fenty administration. In the past year, it finally hired one staff person who spends only part of his time focusing on the district's relationship with the federal government. The mayor has no strategy for business or business model for fully reaping the benefits of the federal government's presence, and no thought on how to expand the relationship. As mayor, you can count on me to do just that. I'll task the Deputy Mayor for Economic Development to designate 2 existing positions as point persons for the district's relationship with the federal government. These individuals will maintain regular contact with the General Services Administration to ensure that the district is always considered for meeting federal agency and department space requirements. Their duties will also involve providing prompt responses to agency and department requests for assistance. We will maintain regular contact with Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton, who has fought tirelessly for relocating and locating federal agencies in the District of Columbia. We'll task district agency department heads and agency heads as well, other agency heads, to identify opportunities for federal funding. Pilot programs, infrastructure improvement, and reimbursements will create jobs and save money for district residents who pay among the highest federal taxes in the nation. In fact, next to Connecticut, we pay the highest per capita federal taxes and obviously are not enfranchised fully in the process. As mayor, I will make sure that we take full advantage of the job opportunities created with the new Department of Homeland Security campus being established in the district. This opportunity presents a once-in-a-lifetime, once-in-a-generation chance to provide jobs and incubate local and small businesses that can provide services to the Department of Homeland Security, its workers, and frankly, the surrounding communities in Ward 8. To accomplish that, we'll create a DHS Job and Community Incubation Zone and Working Group. This working group, led by the Deputy Mayor, will partner with federal, public, and private sector stakeholders to ensure a comprehensive approach is brought to the city and to this project. The Deputy Mayor, within 6 months of taking office, will recommend a plan for identifying and supporting local entrepreneurs and revitalizing nearby neighborhoods, including developing workforce housing. Our 6th principle, we must support the district's diverse industries and become a business incubator. While the federal government has a large presence in the city, we are fortunate to have other strong industries that help to sustain our economy and tax base. We need a mayor who understands how important a diverse and integrated business and key industry community is. A mayor that will not only work closely with these industries, but will bring them together to achieve common goals and create stronger markets to achieve our vision for a city that works effectively together. One city working together. As mayor, I'll help energize our creative, arts, and entertainment industries by establishing an industry advisory council made up of leaders from the arts, media, sports, cultural, and university communities. We'll work to revitalize our hospitals and health industry, an industry that now employs approximately 6,000 people, 30,000 people in the District of Columbia, including over 6,000 district residents. We'll not only create an industry advisory council comprised of hospital and healthcare leadership, but we'll support the applied health programs, the allied health programs, and other associated programs being developed in conjunction with the community college. And we'll require student success teams be put together from the community college to provide information to high school students about opportunities in the healthcare field, a growing, burgeoning industry in the city. And we'll also work to grow and support our hospitality, convention, and tourism economy, which clearly is an important part of how we grow this city. Over the past 15 years, the district has been transformed into one of the premier capital cities of the world. We now stand proudly with London, Rome, and Paris as one of the finest global destinations. Unfortunately, this progress is in jeopardy due to the current administration's lack of interest. In 2007, direct spending by travelers to D.C. generated $5.5 billion in receipts and provided over 71,000 jobs in the city. The Fenty administration's inattention has slowed the progress made during the Williams administration. Hotel occupancy, restaurant revenue, and museum attendance all are down. This trend began in 2007, even before the economic crisis, and promises to continue without strong mayoral leadership. With this in mind, when I'm mayor, we'll work with the private sector to create a hospitality investment fund to provide early-stage investments in the hospitality, convention, and tourism industries. Our seventh of 8 core principles, our 7th principle is to position D.C. as a leader in the green economy. The building blocks for the district's green economy are strong. Thanks to the work that we did on the council, the city now has one of the country's leading green building laws. The framework for a sustainable energy utility, the potential for transformative energy efficiency financing, and a number of local firms poised for growth. Yet, the leadership to take the district to the next level has been lacking, and there's no excuse for our city to be anything but a model city for green economic growth. As mayor, I'll work to create green jobs for district residents, strive to cut energy costs for both residents and businesses, improve our natural environment, reduce our carbon footprint, and make the District of Columbia the model of a strong, green, urban economy. A key strategy will be to facilitate worker-owned, green-focused businesses through the creation of a district green initiative to create green jobs, especially in neighborhoods that historically have been overlooked when it comes to economic development. Modeled after a growing number of worker-owned cooperatives in other major cities, this initiative will create thousands of green jobs and bring financial security for worker-owned operations. Next, we'll establish a robust, sustainable energy unit with predictable and consistent funding from the Sustainable Energy Trust Fund. In 2008, the Council approved landmark legislation creating a sustainable energy utility. Unfortunately, the current administration has inexcusably been slow in getting it off the ground, with the program now more than a year behind schedule. And in the fiscal year 2011 budget, the mayor diverted funds from this program to other projects. When I'm mayor, I'll fast-track this program, ensure the creation of green jobs for city residents, ensure adequate funding is kept in place, and fulfill the original promise of the SEU. In addition, we'll establish the Home Performance with Energy STAR program here in the District of Columbia. The home performance industry, with residential energy efficiency improvements at its core, has lagged here in our city. As mayor, I'll support this vital program to help jumpstart this industry, creating green jobs for district residents and reducing energy costs for our families here in the city. And then finally, our 8th principle, we can and we must enhance the district's status as a global financial center. As the current financial crisis drags on, the District of Columbia has become the epicenter of America's global economic response. As this financial crisis has shown, the U.S. government should have a strong interest in preventing systemic financial problems. The auto, insurance, and finance industry bailouts, plus new federal government regulations across the entire spectrum of the national and international economies have moved many of the nation's financial decisions from Wall Street here to Capitol Hill. This new economic reality creates tremendous potential for the District of Columbia to emerge as a new global financial center. To help realize that potential, I've been working with Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton to push for federal legislation entitled the D.C. National Disaster Insurance Protection Act, H.R. 5762. This bill will position the district as an international financial center by ensuring that catastrophic insurance reserves are available in the U.S. to cover losses from national and man-made catastrophes. Under current law, these funds are subject to federal taxes, which have led insurance companies to hold billions of dollars in reserves in foreign countries, such as the Cayman Islands and Bermuda, where they are not subject to U.S. federal taxes. The bill that I mentioned amends federal tax law to make the district a special tax district where catastrophic insurance reserves and the investment income from these reserves will be exempt from federal taxes. As mayor, I'll keep working with Congresswoman Norton, other members of Congress, the White House, and other members of our community to assure that this legislation is signed into law. This legislation will spur direct and indirect economic development in the district and across the region, bringing those dollars here, bringing investment opportunities here, bringing jobs here, bringing firms here, and occupying our office space in the District of Columbia, which is at an all-time high in terms of vacancy in recent years. And I'll work with the District's Office of the District's Office of Tax Revenue to assure the district charges an excise premium tax or fee for the catastrophic funds as other sovereign districts have done. In this way, the district will get increased tax revenue from the banks holding these funds, obviously. So, as you can see, there's a lot to do. And we need a strong mayor to lead the effort to create jobs for those who desperately need them and to develop a long-term economic development strategy that the district must have in order to be able to thrive and, frankly, survive as an increasingly self-determining district. What I've talked about today covers much of our plan, but not all of it. We posted the full plan on our website at www.vincegrayformayor.com. There you can find a lot more detail, as well as weigh in with your thoughts and ideas. We all need to work on these ideas together if we're going to create a real short-term and long-term economic revival here in the District of Columbia with economic opportunity for all. In doing so, we have a wonderful opportunity to create one city, to create a place where we all work together. A place where we come together so that opportunity finds its way not only to the western side of the city, but to the eastern side of the city, and places like Raise the Stakes become commonplace in Ward 7 and 8 as they are in other parts of the city. And before I conclude, I want to recognize that I've been joined by two of my colleagues. The person who represents this ward now, doing an outstanding job, Councilmember Yvette Alexander. And among the many hard-working council members, the hardest working council member I certainly have worked with, he is the personification of the word indefatigable, which means absolutely tireless. At-large Councilmember Phil Mendelson. And I also want to thank Michael Landrum, who is the moving force and the vision behind Raise the Stakes, and also Danielle, who helped to host us here today. Thank you very much. On September 14th, what is it, about 40 or 41 days from now, you have the opportunity to work with me 40 days. 40 days. You have the opportunity. You have the opportunity to join with me in helping to move forward with the plan that we outlined today, our education plan, because ladies and gentlemen, we can do better in the District of Columbia. I look forward to being the next mayor of the District of Columbia.